There we go. Whoop. Good morning. And welcome to First Parish Brewster. We are a Unitarian Universalist welcoming congregation of people of diverse philosophies and beliefs, people of various cultures and races, sexual orientations, gender identities, abilities, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your path, may this be a place of rest and restoration on your journey. I am Lindsay Strauss, happy to be leading worship this morning with Wilderness Sarchild and our fabulous music director, Kaeza Fern. Our services are recorded and available on our YouTube channel midweek. Masks are now optional, although we do have a section in the upper right side of the balcony where masks will be required. Please, and that corner over there, sorry, where Irie and Carol are. Okay. Please silence your cell phones. We ask that you wear name tags or fill out the sticker name tags in an effort to be more welcoming. We also welcome the noises, movement, and mirth that little ones bring to our service. Our services are 60 to 75 minutes long. If you need to leave before the end, you are welcome to do so using the doors at the rear of the sanctuary. For those of you who may be first-time visitors this morning, a special welcome. If you would like to learn more about FBBUU, please fill out a welcome card found in the back of the pew in front of you and place it in the offertory basket. A big welcome to people streaming. We're glad you are here. In community news announcements, next Sunday is our annual Halloween celebration. Woohoo! Everyone is invited to dress up, and during that service, our children will be collecting, as always, for UNICEF. Please bring a handful of change to add to their collection cans and support the good work of that organization. After the service, on the Halloween service, we'll have games and activities on the plaza for all as you're trick-or-treating, as well as trick-or-treating for everyone. We are looking for a few adults to volunteer to dress up and hand out candy. Please contact Deb Salko, who's raised her hand, if you're willing. We look forward to a fun morning with you all. After the service today, you are welcome to join us for coffee hour in the parish room. Welcome to our service today. It is so good to be together. I always do this, always screw this up, but there we go. Well done.
Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to say a word about, we're going to be, if you look in your order of service, it has some names, and I'm not sure if you recognize the names, but if I said the name Earth, Wind, and Fire, you would say, oh yeah, maybe, yeah. So Earth, Wind, and Fire is a band still playing, all African-American players who really were known for, in the 70s, funk. And they were, in fact, the first African-American group to be inducted to the Kennedy Center Hall of States in 2019, which makes you scratch your head and say, look how endemic racism is. In any case, we want to celebrate their music and celebrate this amazing song, which has the same title as the theme that we've been studying this month, Heritage. So. Yes, grooving is encouraged.
Thank you. Good morning, friends. My maternal grandparents arrived in America by boat from Russia. Is this on? Can you hear me okay? Okay. The Russian pogroms beginning in 1900 forced large numbers of Jews to seek refuge in the United States. The term pogrom historically refers to violent attacks on Jews by local non-Jewish populations. My best guess is that my grandparents arrived in the U.S. around 1912. They settled in West Virginia, where there was already a small immigrant population, Jewish population. Once there, my grandparents proceeded to procreate. My Uncle Mose, my Aunt Miriam, and the youngest, my mother, Sarah. When the children were still young, their father died of a heart attack. The only stories I know about my grandparents' lives in Russia, or their immigration, or much of their life in West Virginia, were just snatches that I heard from my mother and her siblings. I do know that around 1920, after her young husband's death, Celia was left as a single mother with 3 small children to raise on her own. She opened a pawn shop, and they lived in an apartment above the store. She made all her children's clothes and took in sewing from the local Jewish community. At that time, she was the only bagel maker in her town, and every Sunday, the local Jewish immigrants would come to buy her bagels. Through hard work and tenacity, Celia was able to send all 3 of her children to college, so very rare in the 1930s during the Depression, and a single mother to boot. Uncle Mose became an engineer, Aunt Miriam became a mathematician, and Sarah, my mother, became a school teacher. When I interviewed my mother later in life for an oral history, she confided that she was always embarrassed by her immigrant mother, who only spoke Yiddish. She was embarrassed that she had to wear homemade clothes and eat foods from the old country. So when my mom married my dad, they did everything to become modern and assimilate into the white middle-class culture of Charleston, West Virginia. My mom only wore store-bought clothes, and only from the best stores. She bought an upright freezer and filled it with modern food, mostly frozen TV dinners. My parents warned my brother and me not to be like those, quote, other Jews, meaning loud and obnoxious. The lesson was behave, be good, be invisible. This attempt at assimilation made sense in the mid to late 1940s, just before the liberation of the Nazi death camps. Anti-Semitism was also rampant in our country and in our town throughout my growing up years. Jews weren't allowed in any private clubs or institutions that denoted success in America. My parents wanted us to be safe by not sticking out in any way. It was common in my school to hear Jew jokes in the hallway. My junior high school even had an annual slave day where the girls were auctioned off to the boys, and the boys became their slave masters for a day. Yes, racism in all its forms was sanctioned by institutions of learning during that time. My particular experience of Slave Day was that the boy who won me had a father who collected authentic Nazi memorabilia. He brought to school a Nazi armband and helmet and made me wear them all day. I was too young to know better, but the teachers, administration, and my parents were not. And they allowed this abhorrent tradition to live on in all its blatantly evil manifestations. Luckily, I attended a synagogue that taught me to be proud of my Jewish heritage. But it also taught me that women and girls were to be subservient to men and boys. My known heritage is that of courageous grandparents who fled violence and oppression to come to this country and begin a new life for themselves and their future children and for generations after that. They were proud of who they were and determined to make it in America. I hope that I hold their courage and determination within me. It is part of my legacy. I also inherited my parents' internalized anti-Semitism and my town's externalized anti-Semitism, which became part of me and which I have had to struggle and work hard to overcome. I also carry the legacy of all the mothers, grandmothers, and great-grandmothers throughout history who have instilled in me great pride in being a woman and great pride in being an old woman. I hope future generations of girls and women will include me as one of their female heroes, just as I am already learning from them to expand the narrow definitions of male and female into a more inclusive way of looking at gender. I carry a heritage from the Unitarian faith that I have practiced for the past 48 years. To walk into a congregation that is committed to social justice, welcoming of different religious beliefs or no religious beliefs at all, whose only creed is to believe in love, truth, helping others, and the sacredness of life, well, certainly I had found my home. But wait, in this very congregation, there is also a legacy of slaveholders, ship captains who brought enslaved people here to be sold, and even a minister who was a sexual predator. And these are the ones we know about. Yes, folks, sadly, this is also our heritage, which includes sitting in these pews in this building on land that was taken by European settlers from the first peoples of Cape Cod. Our heritage comes from the imagined traits, from the ingrained traits of our ancestors, from the community, attitudes, and political environments we grow up in, from the magazines, books, and social media we read, the TV and videos we watch, the schools and religious institutions we attend. As an adult, my intentions have been to filter what I want to keep of my heritage from what I want to discard. This is an ongoing process, sometimes easy, sometimes an incredible struggle. Today, we light the chalice as a commitment to honor our legacies that serve the greater good, and to help us discard all that we have inherited that does not serve our principles of love, truth, service, and the sacredness of life. Please stand in body or spirit for our opening hymn, but first, greet your neighbor.
Wonderful. Absolutely. That was just beautiful. I think between the two of us, we could.
Hi, neighbor. I found myself a little shaky because I could feel the audience responding.
Oh my God.
I mean, the congregation.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, feel what I was saying.
Well, they were channeling it through you. They're just a performance. And you can give this to me?
All right. Let us sing together. Let us sing together. And that's exactly what the words mean to our opening hymn from the Gray Hymnal 394. And the choir is just going to sing this through once, so you hear what it sounds like. We sang it last Music Sunday, actually, if you were here that special morning. Okay, ready, and... I'll sing a line and you sing it. Here we go. Havana Shira. Let's try it. Havana Shira. Shir Hallelujah. Your turn. Shir Hallelujah. Havana Shira. Havana Shira. Shir Hallelujah. Shir Hallelujah. Havana Shira. Havana Shira. Shir Hallelujah. Shir Hallelujah. All right, we will sing this together a couple of times, everybody. And then, when I signal to you, we have that, part one, a few of you. Doesn't need to be that many of you, maybe 4 of you. And then a bunch of you with this and the balcony, sing with this group. And then we have all you. Because you're on your own. When I do this, then just keep singing the last line, which is, can I just look at where that is? Yes, and literally, where it says number 3, that's what you're gonna sing when I go like this. Can we have our pitch again, just in case? Thanks. Everybody together a couple of times. Ready, and...
Whoops. I told you that I went like this to sit down, but actually, Rison's body or spirit for our affirmation. We believe in love.
Love is the doctrine of this church.
We believe in truth.
The quest for truth is its sacrament.
We believe in helping others.
And service is our prayer.
We believe in the sacredness of life.
To the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. Wants to skip the story completely. Okay.
So good morning. Good to see you all. This morning, we've got so many things to think about, right? We've been hearing about Wilderness's family and what it was to grow up for them. We've been hearing songs. We heard this wonderful, wonderful music over here about heritage. And we have lots of things that we're going to be working on downstairs this morning. Remember that tree project? You guys remember the one where you were over in the art table and you were looking at the roots and what were the different things that made you roots? So we're going to actually move us downstairs sooner, but before we go, the story that I was going to tell you, but we're not going to do instead, was about a tree. And so I want you to think for just a minute. Close your eyes for a second. And I want you to think of a tree somewhere in your life, all of you, that you've stood by or stood under or climbed in. And I want you to think about that exact tree. I've got two. It's hard for me to decide between them. And I want you to think about why that's important to you and what you would do to take care of it or to sustain it, which means to keep it going. Think about what trees need to be taken care of. That's the first thing. Okay, you can open your eyes now. And I want you to imagine for just a second, I want you to actually stand up. Stand up, up. You don't all have to stand up, but I want you all to stand up. Okay. And I want you for just a minute, go with me on this, please. I want you to feel your feet. And I want you to imagine that from your feet, there are all these roots. I want you to feel planted, okay? Now wiggle your toes a minute and feel the roots. You got them? Okay. Now, if you've got good roots, you can go a little bit side to side because you're not going to tip over because your roots are holding you very, very close, right? Okay. Now, go further. I want you to reach up those branches, and I want you to really stretch out. I don't care which direction you go, but feel it all the way out to your fingertips. And like Olive is showing you, you don't have to all be upright. Some trees bow. but I want you to feel it. And now I want you to imagine what's in your branches. Are there birds? Are there leaves? Are there acorns? What's in your branches? And I want you to wiggle your finger a minute and feel that bird on your little branch up there, okay? Imagine that bird. I want to know which kind of bird it is. Then I want you to imagine that there might even be monkeys running around in your branches, because the tree I'm thinking about is in Costa Rica, and there were monkeys in that tree, and it was so amazing. Okay, now I want you to imagine what's happening underneath your branches, like on the ground below you. What's there? Are there people? Are there children? Is somebody planting something? Is there a bench maybe with old people sitting on it and talking to each other? Okay, now put your arms down and stand right where you are. And keep holding on to that idea that you are like a tree. And all the different ways that people, your history, your story, your family, everybody in this room is sustaining you. We're keeping you. We're adding to you, just like you're adding to us. Okay? And I think now we're going to light the children's chalice. Stay right where you are, trees. Stay planted, because you're going to walk in a minute. This is the way that we take the light and the sustenance and all the way that we grow our children downstairs. All right, trees, walk, and we'll sing to you.
Each week, we have the practice of splitting our offertory plate. Half of what is collected goes to the work of First Parish Brewster, and the other half goes to a worthy organization nominated by members of this congregation. This morning's split plate offering is with the Cape Cod Climate Change Collaborative, whose mission is twofold: reduction in the region's contribution to climate change and protection from its potentially devastating impacts. The collaborative works closely with organizations and businesses on the Cape and Islands, organizing and sponsoring educational events, including the annual Net Zero Conference, now in its 6th year. Your offering will benefit this organization and the great work of First Parish. There are several ways you can give today. You can text to give. The number is in your order of service. Or you can donate on our website, or you can make a check out to FPBUU. However you choose to give today, thank you for your generosity. The offering will now be gratefully received.
Lindsay and I, in fact, began to plan this service many weeks before the recent devastating events that have taken place in Israel and the Gaza Strip. And there are so many people in harm's way. This morning, we are going to be singing a piece called Manavu in Hebrew. We have the privilege of singing music, and the reverberations from our music go out into the world and have an effect. So the translation of this text is, how beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of the messenger of good tidings of peace. And the sopranos and altos have worked very hard to bring you this message of peace. I'm glad they're singing and not me.
Please close your eyes or direct your gaze downwards for this time of meditation and prayer. We are still reeling from the increased atrocities of violence and murder in Israel and Palestine in recent weeks, as well as the continued racism, climate crisis, and politics as usual here in our own country and the world. This prayer is for us as Unitarians who are committed to holding complex truths and striving to overcome polarization. This is a time of great suffering for Israelis and Palestinians, a time of painful emotions. We recognize and affirm the humanity, dignity, and rights of all peoples to live in peace through reconciliation and justice. Spirit of life, ancestor of the stars and the sun, you who embrace the vastness of space and us along with it, be with us today. Hold us in our worry, our exhaustion, our grief. Keep us close as we sit with our truth, whatever that may be. Lead us to rest in the quiet, to find solace and renewal in this time of grief and pain. You whose arms open with the spinning galaxies, help us to make room as you do for all that is. Open our hearts to our loved ones, our neighbors, the beings with whom we share this planet. Lead us to reach out to others in compassion. Turn us toward one another in mercy, right relationship, and reconciliation. You who have seen the rising and setting of suns, of seasons, of civilizations, remind us of all that we have learned from the history of the world and from our own histories. Give us the courage to face our mistakes and to repair them whenever possible. Help us understand our interdependence, our gravitational relatedness with all other spinning lives around us, and lead us to treat those relationships with care. In this space, filled with the people among us who shine like stars, this space filled with care, we give thanks for this moment to be together in grief and in love. Blessed be.
The Black Walnut Tree by Mary Oliver. My mother and I debate. We could sell the black walnut tree to the lumberman and pay off the mortgage. Likely some storm anyway will churn down its dark boughs, smashing the house. We talk slowly, two women trying in a difficult time to be wise. Roots in the cellar drains, I say, and she replies that the leaves are getting heavier every year and the fruit harder to gather away. But something brighter than money moves in our blood, an edge sharp and quick as a trowel that wants us to dig and sow. So we talk, but we don't do anything. That night I dream of my fathers out of Bohemia, filling the blue fields of fresh and generous Ohio with leaves and vines and orchards. What my mother and I both know is that we'd crawl with shame into the emptiness we'd made in our own and our father's backyard. So the black walnut tree swings another year of sun and leaping winds, of leaves and bounding fruit. And month after month, the whip crack of the mortgage. This morning, we continue our month-long exploration of the subject of heritage, the values, traditions, culture, artifacts, and stories handed down to us by our ancestors that we honor and carry within us. And of our UU heritage, which has taught us to celebrate a commitment to human dignity and to believe that we need not think alike, to love alike. Everyone in the sanctuary this morning brings their personal and shared heritage. It's there. It's baked deep into who we are, differently in each of us, in our own memory and in group memory and cultural influences. In Mary Oliver's wonderfully nuanced and beautiful poem, The Black Walnut Tree, a mother and daughter struggle with a difficult choice between honoring the heritage of their immigrant forebears by allowing the black walnut tree in their backyard to swing through another year of sun and leaping winds, of leaves and bounding fruit, and dishonoring that heritage by selling the tree to pay off their mortgage. They realized that cutting down the tree would be, metaphorically as well as literally, to cut down their connection to the past, shamefully erasing the sacrifices earlier generations made for mother and daughter to live as they do in present. The choice between honoring and hiding one's heritage was one confronted by Wilderness's parents in her opening words, in which she told us about her religious and cultural heritage, about growing up in a Jewish family, which, while it went to synagogue, where she was taught to be proud of being Jewish, at the same time did everything it could to assimilate into the white middle class of Charleston, West Virginia, and taught her to behave, be good, be invisible, as a way of protecting her and her siblings from the anti-Semitism that existed at the time and that sadly not only persists, but has grown stronger today. The story of my personal and religious heritage is in some ways very different from Wilderness's, but at the same time, very similar. I come from an upper-class New York City family. Like my father before me, I was raised Episcopalian. I only became a UU when I came to this church in 2002. because neither my father nor my grandparents Strauss ever told me of their ethnic heritage, that they were Ashkenazi Jews, or that I was half Jewish. My mother's ancestry was German Lutheran. I did not know until recently of my Jewish ancestry, although looking back, there were many, many clues that could have and perhaps should have tipped me off to that heritage. Now that I know, I have, as the Earth, Wind, and Fire song says, many, many questions about who I am. I would have liked to have asked my grandparents and my father questions like, why did they keep such an important part of my heritage from me? When did their ancestors become secular Jews? Did any of their relatives die in the Holocaust? And if so, who? Are any of our relatives living in Israel? A question, given the Israeli-Hamas war, to which I would love to know the answer today. Since my grandparents and parents have long since passed, I have no one to whom I can direct these questions. Part of me is frankly angry at them for depriving me of that chance. It's as if an important part of who I am is missing. What I have come to understand, if not appreciate, is that they had their reasons. Just as was the case with Wilderness family, the most obvious being that to avoid anti-Semitism, they did everything in their power to assimilate into society and be completely different from who and what they actually were. Having spent the first 50 years of my life keeping my true gender identity hidden from view for fear of being discriminated against, I can certainly relate to where they were coming from. But now that I know about my ethnic heritage, connecting to it, indeed celebrating it, has become important to me. Several years ago, after participating in a panel discussion on being transgender at the Falmouth Jewish congregation, I stayed for that evening's worship service. Even though it was the first time I had ever been at a synagogue for worship, I felt at home. It was as if my Jewish forebears were speaking to me from a distant past and saying, "Welcome back." I felt a deep connection to my past, almost at a cellular level. At points in the service, and again here today during the offertory, I was moved to tears, both of joy for having connected with my heritage in such a spiritual way, and of sadness with the realization that I had spent so much of my life without that connection. Just as being UU and a member of this welcoming congregation has given me the courage to live openly as a transgender woman, it has given me the courage to honor and celebrate my Jewish heritage. To be, as the Earth, Wind, and Fire song reminds us, to be proud, to sing out loud, to take my rightful place because it's my heritage, to stand tall, don't be small, to show my true face because it's my heritage. But while it is important for us as UUs to celebrate our religious heritage, to be proud of what UUs have done, to celebrate, as Reverend and former president of the UUA, Susan Gray, says, when we are on the right side of history, when we left our faith and commitment to human dignity and commitment to universalism to lead us into the practice of justice, it is also important to be honest about our complicated history, not to bring shame or guilt, but to bring understanding that can inform our faith today. Unitarian Universalism is not perfect. It is not inherently right. And though we are very proud of many ancestors of faith, our many ancestors of faith, it is important that we acknowledge that we didn't always believe or do right either. We never really talk about John C. Calhoun, a pro-slavery U.S. senator who wrought incredible harm in the name of our faith. Or David Starr Jordan, the Stanford president in the early 20th century who supported forced sterilization of poor women, believed in eugenics, was a coveted speaker at Unitarian events, and had 19 of his books published by Beacon Press between 1902 and 1916. As we do anti-racism work in this church, we need to recognize, as we have, the role some of the ship captains whose names appear on the bronze plaques in the pews in which you sit played in the slave trade before the Civil War. We also acknowledge, as we have done by placing a plaque on the wall to my left, that even our ministers, like Horatio Alger, have inflicted incredible harm. This week, a new Martin Scorsese movie, Killers of the Flower Moon, opened in theaters. It shines an extraordinary light on the systematic murder by white settlers of members of the Osage Nation in Oklahoma during the earlier 20th century, dubbed the Reign of Terror. The movie provides a long overdue opportunity to restore this dark chapter in our nation's history to our consciousness. But like the Tulsa Race Massacre, the Osage Reign of Terror is generally not taught in schools, even in Oklahoma. Even now, there is a campaign in the state to sweep that history under the rug. Indeed, the movement to suppress elements of American history extends well beyond Oklahoma. School curriculums are being revised to mask discomforting truths, so much so that in Florida, students will now be taught that some African Americans actually benefited from slavery because it gave them skills. As Jim Gray, a former Osage chief whose great-great-grandfather was killed during the Reign of Terror, and David Grann, the author of the book on which the movie Killers of the Flower Moon is based, warned in a New York Times op-ed on Friday, if such policies continue, new generations will be deprived of the wisdom of history, all of history, the stirring, the cautionary truth. In the final analysis, if we are going to widen the circles of our lives, circles of heritage and otherwise, says Reverend Kristen Grassel-Schmidt in a 2022 sermon, we need to practice some humility. We may never know all the ways we aren't right, but we can be sure that the need to be right about the attitudes and assumptions these and other issues bring up in our minds and hearts is a barrier to the search for truth, a barrier to justice, a barrier to growing in community. And as we are seeing play out in this era of alternative facts and misinformation, the need to be right is making people on all sides of an issue hunker down even more firmly in their entrenched worldviews. We need to let go of the need to be right. It frees us to learn about our history with eyes wide open, to widen the circle of our heritage with honesty, because perfection and conflict avoidance, those are part of a white supremacy culture, and they don't serve us well. Blessed be, and amen.
we're going to sing together a beautiful song called We Are. It's in your teal hymnal, and it's actually 1051. Sorry about that. I think it might say 1053 in the order of service, but it's 1051. Mind the repeats. There are a bunch of them. Please rise in body or spirit and join together in singing a song about ancestors and heritage.
And you hold hand with your neighbors if you're so inclined for the benediction. Breathe in for our lives touched by ancestors known and unknown. Breathe out for living lives that will touch our descendants. Breathe in for folks held in loving arms as they were raised up. Breathe out for folks who would make their own way too early in their lives. Breathe in for beloveds who will hold close in our hearts every day. Breathe out for beloveds we sometimes have trouble reaching out to. Breathe in for loving. Breathe out for remembering. Blessed be.